thank you, Advancement Courses, for sponsoring today's show. Stay tuned at the end of the show to learn how to save 20% for online professional development. Today is an important show. I don't want to scare anybody, but we need to talk about artificial intelligence, or AI, because it is only going to be as moral and good as those who create it. And without discussing the ethics of AI and its algorithms, we risk opening the ultimate Pandora's box of technology problems, when we should instead work to get hope out of the AI box and keep the demons that could misuse and abuse us locked away. I am not too sure we currently have the moral capacity or knowledge of right and wrong to wisely use AI. Either way, though, AI is here, and we can be part of the conversation, or we can sit in the corner and say, nah, I can't hear you, until AI hears us and somebody else builds a cage around our little corner from which we cannot escape. Because ultimately, the key to any technology is crafted by those who make themselves part of the conversation. And I hope that this conversation will help you understand both the pitfalls and possibilities of AI. So today's episode is 472. Will AI help education or ruin it?
The 10-Minute Teacher Podcast with Vicki Davis. Every weekday, you'll learn powerful, practical ways to be a more remarkable teacher today.
Today, we're talking with Joe Fatheree. He's an award-winning international teacher, but we're going to talk about AI, artificial intelligence in education. So, Joe, how would you explain artificial intelligence in education, where it is now, and just help folks understand what it actually is? Because, we're hearing AI a lot, and not everything that's being called AI is, and some things are AI that nobody's admitting to.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you having us on, because I think this is such an important topic that practically no one really has on their radar. They hear it on a lot of commercials, a lot of news, but in terms of education, I hardly know anyone that's really taking this conversation on and having it right now. So I think in the simplest terms, an AI system is a computer system that has the ability to learn on its own. And I want to kind of hit this a little bit first. AI could potentially give us personalized adaptive learning, tailor-made specifically for every student on the globe. So it doesn't matter whether you have a disability or you're the most gifted student on the earth, your learning can be tailor-made to you. And if it's integrated into an augmented reality or virtual reality headset, the opportunity to change the way education is today, I don't know if people have been able to visionaire out that far. And so you start thinking about struggling learners being able to have a guide that can sit on their left shoulder, encouraging them through barriers that they're having with their learning right now. And that the AI is immediately able to go out and find resources to help that student out. And along the way, the AI is constantly probing and assessing student learning and finding out where the student is struggling and where those aha moments are at, so they can build upon them. And advanced AI systems would even have the ability to be able to read the student's social and emotional learning and be able to, immediately snap an intervention in. There's no teacher on the earth that would have the ability to do that in real time with every student in his or her classroom. That's an incredible blessing. Also think about the teacher side of stuff, where AI could go out and find all of these resources and customize lesson plans that would immediately be available, an infinite supply to every teacher on the earth. We're still on the very front end of AI in the terms of it being aware and having a consciousness about stuff like that. We're not anywhere close to that yet, but every day with the way technology just changes so rapidly, it's starting to become a concern of some people out there. As things start to fall, do we need to have some type of a code and ethics in place to be able to think about, how will we adapt to them as a society?
My students and I have been discussing artificial intelligence, and there's two pieces of research that they turned up. One was several years ago, there were some folks in the legal industry who were using AI to predict repeat offenders. And of course, it had studied decisions these judges and these probation officers had made before. And they had to abandon it because they determined that it was racist against African-American males. I also heard recently that Amazon was testing an AI human resources bot to kind of pre-screen candidates. and it had to abandon it because it was adopting the biases of the HR managers it was studying. So the concern is that we can institutionalize to our harm and regret the bias, the racism, the sexism, the whatever isms of the people that the AI bot studies if we're not careful. I mean, how could that impact us in education?
Well, the anti-bias, it's dependent upon how pure your data pool is. And if you look at these big databases, a lot of them have bias accidentally built in. And so maybe this first generation, it's not an issue. But if you're familiar with, there's an AR headset out there called Magic Leap that, they're getting ready to release at some point. And their AI assistant was called Micah. You would see her hologram and she would talk to you like a real person as long as you had the headset on. Well, we start thinking about marginalized youth that may not have the ability to separate out the difference between reality and fiction. We even look back in the 60s when the founders of Sesame Street, they were worried about the negative impact television was having on our youth. And so that's why Sesame Street was created. Well, how much more relevant is that in today's world when you could have a virtual guide sitting in front of you with very humanistic features that talks to you in a humanistic voice? How is a fourth or fifth grader or third grader who's struggling with depression and anxiety going to be able to separate that out? And what happens if there's bias built into those things? That's not happening tomorrow, but those are things as fast as technology changes, we have to be aware of that. The potential of those things have to impact students down the road. And so while that has a lot of positive potential, there's also some negative things in there that we have to really consider. And I don't believe that our students should become the laboratory to figure that out. We need to have the adults in the room, the entrepreneurs, the developers, and real live classroom teachers in the room talking about what could be the pros and cons of both sides of this.
It's such a big issue. It's hard to get our arms around it. And I think that even the algorithms we're using on Facebook and such, isn't that somewhat a form of AI? Isn't it studying us and giving us more of what we quote like?
Well, they are, and it's predictive. And there's a lot of conversation going around right now on social media and how that could be impacting depression and loneliness in kids. And I've talked to my students here and they said, you know what? We look at all of our friends on Facebook or different social media accounts and they're like, they see them on the weekends doing things and they're like, well, why didn't I get invited to that? And they start reading stuff into these things. Well, what happens when somebody's marginalized? And so now the person that they turn to isn't a real person, but it's their virtual guide that has AI that tells them the things that they want to do. And so I brought our local police department in last year and I said, so here is a VR headset, really violent video game. And I said, imagine when an AI gets built into this and the student is able to go home and recreate a mock-up of their school and the AI teaches them how to go through and kill all of the people in the building. And they can actually take the pictures off of social media account and skin the avatars and they practice all day long shooting and killing until they perfect it. And I talked to the head of a very large VR company. I'm not going to say who it was. And they said, we didn't create this for this. And I said, I know you didn't. I know you created it for good. But these are the things that developers are considering making. And if you recall, last year, there was a developer who came out with a game called Active Shooter where you could sign on and you could kill students and teachers at school. And so these are real world problems that we're going to have to face. And just because we can create it doesn't mean that we should. And so there does need to be some conversation about that. And I believe classroom teachers need to be involved in that.
I just read a sci-fi series, and you have to kind of be careful about those, but it was called Darknet. But it was really talking about chatbots and just how easy it's getting to be to imitate the conversations of people. And video is not too far after it. We already have a truth problem. People don't know who to believe. Like you said, Joe, there are these massive ethical issues that need to be addressed. You can't wait until something is created. That's what we've done for years. We have waited until a problem happens before we address it. And we just can't do that with AI because, once the Pandora's box is opened, you're not putting it back in.
Education is ill prepared for this. And there's a site I would like your listeners to take a look at. It's called thispersondoesnotexist.com. It's come out here in the last few weeks. And if you look at it, none of the people that you see on there are real. They're all created by an AI, and you could have kids write stories about these people. But what if you were able to have the AI next step create social media accounts for all of those people? And what if you can't tell the difference? And what if 2 years from now or 5 years from now, they're not still pictures, they're full-blown video? How do students down the road differentiate what's real or not? I'm not a doomsday person on this. I think there's so much good that can come out of it. And there's so many places on the web where you can find people that want to be involved in this. Now, I would tell you, get involved in educated discussions. Don't get caught up in all the sci-fi doomsday stuff on it, but get caught up in the realism about what you can do today and how you can help move things forward.
I hope that all of you listening will have your eyes open, like Joe said, not to be afraid and shaking in your boots. So thank you, Joe. This is an important topic, artificial intelligence in education. Let's get out on the front end of it and be good stewards of this precious profession we have and the students. And for some of us, we'll be investing in students that will be our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren because AI is coming and it's going to be part of what all of us do. And it can make some great positive things in education as well.
I agree. I think there's a couple books out there too that might be of interest. Life 3.0 and The Fourth Education Revolution. They both talk about AI in different terms, and it'll give you a little bit better understanding of the technology. And it'll also give you maybe a little better understanding of some of the potential challenges and benefits that could be coming.
Good. Okay. So those are two books that I need to pick up in my own spring break this week. So thank you, Joe.
Thanks for having us on again.
So today I want to tell you about the Advancement Courses Spring Sale. You can save 20% off each course with the code COOL20. So that's just $120 per graduate credit hour or $160 for 50 clock hours. Advancement Courses has over 250 online graduate level PD courses in 19 different subject areas. They have standard content areas like math, science, and social studies, but also have courses that are a little hard to find like PE or the arts, counseling, teacher wellness, social emotional learning, and special education courses. And they've even got a new course on maker spaces in the school library. All of these courses are online and self-paced, and you have up to 6 months to complete them. Graduate credit is available with an official transcript from your CAEP and regionally accredited university partners. So to take advantage of the spring sale, go to advancementcourses.com/CoolCat. And remember, use the code COOL20 to get your special 10-minute teacher discount and save 20%.
Thank you for listening to the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast. You can download the show notes and see the archive at coolcatteacher.com/podcast. Never stop learning.